Hello, world from Oktopost headquarters. This is Radically Transparent, Oktopost's original podcast show on B2B marketing now. I'm your host, Jennifer Gutman, Director of Social Strategy, and in most episodes of this podcast, we'll feature B2B marketing leaders who will share their radically transparent truths behind being a modern-day marketer and what it takes to grow ideas, take risks, and impact change. Today's episode is what we call a spotlight episode, and it's designed to zoom in on a hot topic in leadership today that has been brought to our attention from CMOs, VPs, and CEOs around the globe. Today, we're tackling the world of employee retention. Work as we all know it has changed, and so have our values when it comes to work. And while all of us want to be employed by a place of work that has increased flexibility, better perks, and greater transparency, today there's even more at stake. Joining us today to discuss it all is Russell Rothstein, founder and CEO of IT Central Station, Perry Nalevka, founder and CEO of Penguin Strategies, and Daniel Kushner, founder and CEO of Oktopost. Perry, Russell, and Daniel, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jen.
Great. It's so great to have you all here. And for those listening, we know you're tuning into the Spotlight episode. And this Spotlight episode arose actually because many of our marketing leaders that we've been speaking to shared a bit candidly that something that keeps them up at night is basically retaining top talent. And it's not as easy as one might think. So we wanted to do a spotlight episode, bringing some great leaders together to really dive into the topic today and understand what organizations and leaders are doing in 2021 to really support their employees while driving results and retaining their top talent. So here on the floor, right? Anyone can chime in. We're going to kick off with getting radically transparent. How are you retaining and supporting your top talent?
So I'll start.
Thanks, Perry.
Go ahead, Perry.
I think we should also frame the question, right? All three of us are in what we call the startup nation in Israel, where there is an influx of investments and VC investment, and there's a lot of great technology companies here. So part of the equation that we need to address, or the elephant in the room, is that there's just a lot of really great companies. Within 2 hours of driving, you probably have hundreds of really great companies, and so that's kind of when you talk about the competitive landscape from an employee perspective, and that's created a drive for a lot of great talent, and so it's not. Whatever you're doing is just not good enough. So that's. I just wanted to frame that. I don't know what you guys.
No, that's optimistic to start the show.
What do you mean? Radically transparent. So this is it. This is what we deal with. I mean, and we're on different. Also, I am on a little bit of a different side of the scale or the table from Daniel and Russell, who both have incredible companies themselves. Is that I run an entirely marketing organization, being a marketing agency and working with a lot of these great companies, which also, it causes, we're working with them. So we look at how great they are. So sometimes it's like attracted to go work for them. So it's a different issue, but I just figured I'd open it up by putting that on the table. I don't know if you agree with that, Russell and Daniel. And that's part of the problem. I didn't start talking about solving it yet. Just
let's lay it out. To have. Let's get it on the table. Daniel, Perry, retaining, supporting, do you agree, disagree with Perry said? Let's get it all out on the table.
Yeah, so I think that there's one thing there that Perry said, and I'll try to rephrase it. Perry, if I'm rephrasing it incorrectly, let me know. It's like this connection or correlation between the large amount of investments Israeli high tech is getting, right? And you compared that or correlated that to there's a lot of talent, right? I don't think there's a correlation. The fact that there's lots of money doesn't mean the talent pool increases, right? There's a set amount of talent that you have in a specific geographical region, and maybe you have more companies demanding that talent. So, Jen, let's put another podcast on how to find the talent in the first place in order to retain it, because that's a whole other issue. But when it comes to retainment, I think what the problem that VC money does cause is that money becomes a commodity, And you're never going to be able to win or retain talent just based on dollars, because whatever dollar amount you can give, your next door neighbor or the tenant upstairs is going to give another 20 cents on that dollar, and then it goes on and on. And by the way, this is, when we're recruiting, I don't think it's extremely rare that we'll get a CV on any position where people are more than 2-3 years at a position, right? And they just keep on rolling and rolling. And a lot of this rolling is to do with increasing salary and getting more of that money, which is coming from the VC. So I think the whole thing about retainment is finding what elements can you offer to employees that is beyond the dollar amount. Because again, it doesn't matter what size company you are, you're never going to win with dollars. So we at Oktopost, we recently launched an employee wellness program. I can give a few things that we've done there. It's basically a 10-step program to make sure we keep the Oktoposters excited and support their well-being. Some are like providing a performance coach. So this is an outside person who we pay a retainer, and any employee, they can book an hour a month, an hour a week, whatever they need, someone to go talk to help that employee manage their relationship between themselves and the company, between themselves and the manager, and another bouncing board that helps them kind of sort out the dilemmas that they have in their minds. That's one thing, a part of the performance program, which I think is very helpful. Another thing, maybe a little bit more materialistic, every employee gets a company credit card, and it's preloaded.
Can I get one, Daniel?
Wait, there are limitations. It's not a kibbutz. It's limited to $100 a month, but they can spend on whatever they want, right? That's in the area of being company related, right? Which is food, equipment for your house, rides, dinners. That's all company expense, right? If you go spend it on a Hawaii vacation, maybe that'll be on the borderline. But they can use this, and then new employees, they get an additional $100 when they start, so they can set up their office environment if they're working from home a bit. Birthdays, we have another $100 for the additional birthday month, so they can buy themselves a nice gift. But it's things like that, that I think that goes a long way, and it gives the employees another reason to belong to the organization, which is beyond the salary and benefits.
Yeah, Daniel, the way I look at it, I see that there's four elements of employee satisfaction in the company. And so one is compensation, the financial compensation they're getting for working there. Second is their overall ability to do good work. Is it an environment where they're able to do work? They come home at the end of the day and they feel like they've done their best work. They do what they like to do, et cetera. A third area is room for improvement and room for growth, right? So is this a company that I can grow in? I can have more responsibilities, get promoted? Are other people getting promoted in the company? So the third one is that room for growth and improvement. And then the fourth, which I don't think we've talked about yet, is just belief in the company vision, is buying into the company vision, being part of something bigger than any one of us as ourselves. And so I think that think of all four of those elements is important. Too often, managers, especially more junior managers, are very focused just on the money issue. It's like, oh, that employee isn't happy, let's give them a bonus or a raise. And sometimes, that is one of the four factors. I'm not discounting it.
Who doesn't like money?
Yes, but sometimes that's not what's going to make a difference. Sometimes they don't see a room for growth in the company, or sometimes the kind of work that they're doing is just not aligned with what the kind of work that they want to be doing, that they excel at. They're managing people and they don't like to manage people, or they're great at managing people and they don't have an opportunity to manage people. Or or we as leaders, managers of the company, haven't really well articulated why the company is going to be a huge success, why what we're doing is meaningful, is important in the world, in the business world, what have you. So it's important, I find, is to if and when there's an employee who thinks not happy, which of the four are the ones that we're not connecting with them?
Yeah, no, I think you hit it on the head. I think that and there's one thing that kind of flows with all four of them, maybe less on the compensation, and that's kind of what they call culture, right? It's not, it's the mindset of the company, and even if you're not consciously investing in it, it's there. One of them is how it affects how you feel when you go to work every day, and if you're able to get your work done. And if you're fighting politics all day, and at the end of the day, all you did was move something from to the left to the right, but really didn't get any work done because you had to fight politics all day, or is it toxic? Is it not toxic? I think that's really important, and that's also if the company's able to, and that's a lot of times it's the CEO's role to deliver that vision in a real concise way and how does it affect my day-to-day work, and that's goes to back to where we said before. So a lot of people, like Daniel said, go through their careers, or at least the early parts of their careers, jumping from one place to the other. I really like to when people have actually done that already and realize that the grass just doesn't get any greener. They're looking for a home, and being, because not every employee will buy into your culture, your way of doing work, and your way of growing it. And it's also finding that right person. Maybe that's part of that next podcast, Daniel, is how do you attract and those people, because it's easier to retain the right people than trying to retain the people that that aren't a good fit. So I think it's really tying that in and making sure that they have a clear growth. Like you said before, I think that's something that's really important. And it's that, like you said, money is important, but if it's 20 cents to here or there, at the end of the day, that especially the more mature employees will realize that the bottom line is the whole package.
Yeah, I'll further that, Perry, and also I think this is a good message for the listeners, Jen, is every single person should have their own personal plan. I really encourage every single person to have their own personal plan, right? A business has a plan, right? Everyone expects a business to have a plan. I encourage everyone to have their own personal plan. Where do I want to be in 3 years from now, 5 years from now? And then within that, how does work fit into that? Right? Do I want to be part of a really successful, fast-growing rocket ship startup, and I want to be working 12 hours a day, X days a week to be part of that? Or is my personal plan to be more focused on my family and to have more balance? And recognizing, again, just like in business, a coherent business plan isn't going to say you're going to have maximum profits, maximum sales, maximum EBITDA, maximum everything. There's always trade-offs. So as a person, everyone needs to really think through those decisions and what's really important to them as a person, and then to find a company an employer that matches your personal plan. And if a person has their own personal plan and they find a company that matches their plan of what they expect from employees, then it'll work out really well. So sometimes you can have a really successful employee and a really successful company, but they have different plans, they have different expectations, and there's mismatches, even though neither one is just at fault. Just it's a mismatch, and so that's why I encourage everyone to create their own personal plan, and then they'll get clarity about what they're really looking for themselves from their employment.
Question for you, Russell. I have a question for you off of that. I think, a personal plan, in marketing, we always have our one-page plans ready to go. But when we're looking at a personal plan, and I've had some of our CMOs on the show share before that they wish that their teams would be more transparent with them about their personal plan. And there's sometimes some discrepancy or some sort of, I guess, nervousness or maybe intimidation to share that personal plan because they don't want to be perceived as, if they want more family life, they're not invested in the company or whatever it may be. As a leader, how would you recommend somebody to approach you with that personal plan to have the maximum best benefit from the employee and the company working together? How do you encourage your employees to have that conversation? Or is it a personal plan that you keep to yourself?
Well, we don't require. I'm really a believer in giving privacy to our staff. I encourage it. Just like basically my guiding light is just to do by example. So here at IT Central Station, we're very transparent. I presented 2 months ago our 5-year plan. What our revenues will look like in 5 years from now, what our revenues will look like in 3 years from now. And we share every quarter all of the numbers of every department with the entire company. So certainly encourage, saying, well, we're revealing everything about the company. Please do feel free to, but certainly wouldn't put any employee on the spot to say, you've got to say, are you, what do how much time you're going to be putting into the company and how much of your time you're going to be putting into your family. But I certainly encourage, again, a healthy discussion with the person's manager. And because if there is that mismatch, like you said, where the person really wants more time with the family, but they don't share that with the company, then there's going to be some frustration somewhere. Either they're just not going to get the hours that they think they should be, and then they're not going to get the performance that they want. And it's possible that being upfront, it could be that maybe that employee should be working 80% instead of 100%, and we'll be happier at the end of the day. So I encourage being transparency, but I don't require it.
And
I wanted to just jump in
because
it's almost like that whole conversation you guys were. I don't know if you guys were listening into our last few management meetings, because that was taking a big part of it the last few weeks, on the question of how much responsibility for an individual's career does the company have versus the individual. And I think that's a lot of times an individual will say, okay, well, what is the company going to do for me? But if the company doesn't know what you want, it'll just do for you what is best for the company. And if you have a plan, so how do you encourage that? So first of all, I agree with Russell on the transparency side, and we do the same thing, right? So we have we're very clear on what we want the company to do every year, and we get up in front on a quarterly basis and say, hey, this is what we're planning, our 5-year plan. This is where we are. Are we achieving it? Are we not? How many people are we going to hire? What types of people are we going to? So that if people are thinking about jumping to a different department or going into at least they know what roles are going to be hired in the next 3-6 months, so that they can actually apply to it or think about it. So that's one thing, but that's not enough. We found, because people are worried. Maybe if they speak up, maybe their manager will be upset because they're and be looked at differently. So how do we achieve that? I don't have a clear answer, but one of the things we're working on right now is creating very clear career paths that are possible, not like that you have to take. So it's not like this is what it, and start sitting on an individual basis. So each team leader, each manager will sit with their employees, especially the ones that are more quiet and not as vocal about their plans, and try to help them, at least from a career perspective. We can't, and it has to be done on a regular basis, because what I've seen is you assume something because someone told you, actually opened up and said something to you about 2 years ago, and you worked towards helping them create that plan. But then 2 years later, they started a family. Maybe someone's sick in the family. Maybe something happy's happened. They had another kid, whatever it might be, and their priorities have changed, and that's fine. But if you're not having that conversation with them on a regular basis, not once a year, at least I think it needs to happen once a month. We call it one-on-ones. Then you don't know. So I think it's the communication, and it needs to hapen more frequently.
Yeah,
I think that the openness and the dialogue between employee and the company is a must, right? Russell, you said that you're not forcing employees, to say what they think. One, you shouldn't, enforce it. But I think any successful relationship, work or non-work, or even personal relationship, it has to be based on that dialogue. Otherwise, you'll be having conversations with yourself, and that never works. One of the things that we also have in the wellness program is sponsored training, right? Because one of your 4 pillars that you mentioned in the beginning, was about that self-improvement and how you're going to grow, as a person, grow in your career. So we have something which is quite unstructured, but it really helps in personal growth. And any employee can come to the manager or come to HR and say, I think I need this course. And, we've sent people to Harvard courses, to courses here in the Technion in Israel, Open University. And it can be anything as small as a 2-day seminar to a year-long degree. And we will sponsor 100%. I think it was maybe Ford said, all these things go back to Ford, right? So, I prefer a trained employee that leaves than a non-trained employee that doesn't leave. And for us, giving that training and that extra curriculum education that we can't provide internally, but is going to help them professionally and also help them do their job in a much more professional way.
So I'm going to shift the conversation for a moment. I think these are all pretty heated topics, and I think having a bunch of leaders in a room to hear it all, I think it hopefully for everyone listening, a leader or a team member, that you're getting some valuable insight into how to approach, right, where you want to grow, how to approach your management team, and just thinking about your career. What I want to ask now, and there's 2 parts to the question, and you can take one part, both parts, no parts. But when you think about your employee base today and all of the team members on your team, what keeps you up at night with the way things are currently run? That's one question you can answer. Or when you're thinking of your team and you're defining what makes an all-star at your company, could you share a little bit about the traits either that you look for or what you see on your team that you would say, yes, that is an Oktopost or an IT Central or a Penguin Strategy all-star, and this is why?
Yeah, about the all-star. So again, the framework I use for thinking about that is something I learned from Kim Scott in the book Radical Candor. Highly recommend that book. And there you go. Besides the concept of radical candor, she also raises the concept of rock stars and superstars in your company. And it's really important because you said all stars. Well, she uses these 2 terms very differently. A rock star is someone who excels in their current role, is dedicated to excellence, is great at it, but does not look to take on more responsibilities, become promoted, be that VP, whatever it is, as opposed to the superstar, where that's someone who is looking to have always more responsibility, more ownership, greater promotion. And so I find a mistake that sometimes, again, some junior managers make is judging someone that they should be, especially someone who's a superstar. Right? We have a lot of young managers here at IT Central Station. A lot of people who've sort of grown up and become managers. And so naturally, many of them are superstars, right? Those are the ones who started and wanted to get that promotion and wanted to have more and more. And so they would judge people based on, are they a superstar? But you want to have rock stars and you want to reward rock stars, which is, it's okay for someone to continue to be in the role that they're doing. Yes, bring innovation, bring new ideas to their job functional area, but it's not only fine. There are people who are like that, and very important role in the company. And so it's important that you compartmentalize, like, is this someone who, and again, some people can change in their career. At this point, I want to be a rock star, and later on in my life, I want to be a superstar. But where they are today, if they want to be a rock star, that's great. And then judge them, reward them, create their incentive plan based on their being a rock star. Whereas sometimes superstar managers, especially younger ones, will think somewhat that it's not okay to be a rock star. And I think that's an important distinction.
Yeah. So one thing that we do here at Oktopost, we try as much as possible to promote from within, and it's very, especially for the younger generation, it's very kind of sexy to be a manager and to manage a team and manage people, and they all want to. It's like that's for them. That's the advancement in career, and when you get there, you're like, wait. This isn't good managing people, right? I want to let me be a sole contributor and enjoy what I do on a daily basis and deal with my own problems and not with anyone else's problems. So when we do that shift in career at Oktopost, we always give a way back, and it's not just on entering that management position saying, if you don't want to manage after a month, after a quarter, after a year, that's fine, you can go back. But reiterating that, and I think we have lots of examples at Oktopost where people did go into management positions, saw the dark side of managing people, and went back to being the rock stars because it better suits themselves and their lifestyle and what they want to currently do in their career. So, I think giving that fluidity, it's not, as you said, it's not bad.
Recognizing it's not a failure. It's success. It's a success to discover what you're excelling at, what you're great at, where you're great contributing at, and where you're most happy with today.
So, just to go back to Jen's question.
Thanks, Barry.
Always try to be the goody two shoes here, but one of the things that that keeps us up at night, related to him, there's a lot of different things I'm sure that keep us up at night. As there's finance, there's sales, there's marketing, there's all the compartments. But I think from an employee perspective, and I think it's not specific to me, but because we're a people business, right? We derive our revenue from our people giving services to customers, right? Everybody gets the revenue from customers. So it's those people that are giving the service to the customer, and those relationships that are being created between employee, and I'm sure Russell and Daniel have worked with agencies or consultants in the past. And if they're working with a company, they, whatever that company is, that main person that's connected with you, that's your connection with the consulting company or the services company. If that person leaves, that would be something that would keep me up at night. One of the things that we've and this was very acute in earlier years, and one of the things we've been working really hard on to fix that type of an issue. And I think that could go together with a product. I'm sure you guys, as a product company, a lot of times there's one person who really knows the product start to finish. You all know who I'm talking about, or maybe you've solved it in a similar way that I'm going to mention now. And you're saying, if that person leaves, the knowledge on that part, and my part is the relationships, is a big hole. It's gonna be very costly to fix. So that's something that keeps you up at night. I think one of the ways that we've done is we've moved from what we'll call it account managers who own entire relationships. Maybe it's a product manager to customer teams, so that it's not as centralized as it used to be. And being able to create a lot of to provide these superstars with a lot of, to use the terminology, with these rock stars that are working together with them, but also that those relationships are guarded a little bit better. So that and case in point, we had an entire team disappear in a very short time frame a few months ago. It's already 8 months ago. And
thanks for tuning in to the Radically Transparent podcast, brought to you by Oktopost, the only social media management and employee advocacy platform architected for B2B. I'm Jennifer Gutman, your host and director of social strategy here at Oktopost. And if you love today's show, we'd love if you subscribe, rate, and give a raving review wherever you get your podcasts. For more discussion on B2B social media marketing, be sure to follow Oktopost on LinkedIn. And of course, to gain access to all our free social media marketing and employee advocacy resources, head on over to our website, www.oktopost.com. Until next time.